Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Society. Tonight, we drift into one of the most mysterious territories of human experience. A place where knowing arrives without thinking, where decisions emerge from shadows, and where the body whispers truths the conscious mind has yet to discover. We are exploring intuition, that quiet voice beneath thought, that sudden certainty without evidence, that feeling in your chest or stomach that guides you toward choices you cannot quite explain. If you find yourself drawn to these gentle explorations of science and consciousness, I invite you to like this video or subscribe to the channel. Your support helps other curious minds find their way to this peaceful corner of learning, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, settle in. Let your breathing slow. Allow your muscles to soften. Tonight, we follow the hidden pathways where intuition lives, where the brain speaks in whispers, and where ancient wisdom meets modern neuroscience. Intuition appears in 1,000 quiet moments. It is the feeling that makes you hesitate before crossing a street, even when you see no danger. It is the certainty that someone is lying to you, though their words sound perfectly reasonable. It is the sudden conviction that you should call a friend, only to discover they desperately needed to hear from you. It is the inexplicable sense that a job offer feels wrong despite the impressive salary. These moments carry weight far beyond their rational justification. They rise from somewhere deeper than logic, somewhere older than language, somewhere the conscious mind cannot quite reach. For millennia, cultures around the world have honored these fleeting certainties. They have named them differently, variously calling them gut feelings, sixth sense, inner knowing, or the voice of the soul. Some traditions viewed intuition as divine guidance, while others saw it as animal instinct too ancient to require explanation. What all these perspectives shared was recognition that human beings possess a form of knowledge that operates outside the careful architecture of reasoned thought. Modern science initially dismissed intuition as superstition or wishful thinking. The great intellectual movements of the past few centuries celebrated rational analysis, systematic observation, and logical deduction. Intuition seemed too vague, too subjective, too unreliable to merit serious investigation. Yet, even as scientists championed reason, they privately acknowledged that some of their greatest discoveries arrived not through methodical calculation, but through sudden flashes of insight that felt almost miraculous. Einstein spoke of insights that came to him complete and whole. Tesla described visions that revealed entire machines in perfect detail. Countless researchers have experienced that electric moment when disparate facts suddenly align into a coherent understanding, arriving not at the end of careful reasoning, but in a leap that bypasses conscious deliberation entirely. These experiences suggested that intuition might be more than mere coincidence or delusion. They hinted at genuine cognitive processes operating beneath awareness, processes that deserved investigation rather than dismissal. In recent decades, neuroscience has finally turned its attention toward these mysterious moments of knowing without thinking. Armed with brain imaging technologies, careful experimental designs, and increasingly sophisticated theories of consciousness, researchers have begun mapping the neural territories where intuition dwells. what they have discovered is both humbling and extraordinary. Intuition is not magic. It is not mystical communication from some realm beyond the physical. Instead, it represents a sophisticated form of information processing that operates largely outside conscious awareness, drawing on patterns absorbed across entire lifetimes, integrating signals from throughout the body, and generating rapid assessments that feel immediate and complete precisely because the deliberative mind never witnessed their construction. Understanding intuition means understanding how the brain works when we are not watching, how the body contributes to knowing, and how evolution has equipped human beings with multiple pathways to navigate an uncertain world. Tonight, we will explore the science that illuminates these hidden processes. We will descend into brain regions that learn without conscious instruction. We will trace the neural highways connecting gut to brain, carrying messages that shape our choices. We will examine the subtle bodily sensations that color our decisions. We will consider both the remarkable accuracy and the dangerous pitfalls of intuitive judgment. We will discover how intuition develops through expertise, how emotional states alter its clarity, and how we might cultivate more reliable access to this ancient form of knowing. The journey ahead is rich with detail, woven with wonder, and grounded in evidence that transforms intuition from mystery into mechanism. What is intuition? Before we can understand how intuition works, we must first establish what we mean when we use the word. In everyday language, intuition refers to those moments when understanding arrives without deliberate reasoning. You simply know something, though you cannot explain precisely how you know it. The certainty feels immediate, often accompanied by physical sensations. Your stomach tightens. Your chest feels warm or constricted. A chill runs across your skin. These bodily experiences become inseparable from the knowing itself, suggesting that intuition involves more than pure cognition. It is an embodied phenomenon, a fusion of mind and flesh that generates meaning without requiring the careful step-by-step logic we associate with conscious thought. Researchers attempting to study intuition face an immediate challenge. How do you measure something so subjective, so fleeting, so resistant to introspection? Different scientists have proposed different definitions, each emphasizing different aspects of the phenomenon. Some focus on speed, noting that intuitive judgments arrive quickly, often in fractions of a second. Others emphasize the lack of conscious reasoning, pointing out that people experiencing intuition cannot articulate the steps that led to their conclusion. Still others highlight the affective component, the emotional coloring that accompanies intuitive knowing and distinguishes it from cold calculation. One particularly influential definition comes from researchers who surveyed literature across psychology, neuroscience, and organizational science. They described intuition as a non-sequential information processing mode that combines both cognitive and affective elements, resulting in direct knowing without conscious reasoning. This definition captures several key features. First, it acknowledges that intuition is genuinely a form of information processing, not mere randomness or self-deception. Second, it emphasizes the non-sequential nature, meaning that intuition does not proceed through the logical steps that characterize deliberate thought. Third, it recognizes both thinking and feeling as integral to the experience. Finally, it highlights the experiential quality of direct knowing, that sense of immediate certainty that marks intuitive judgment. Another prominent conceptualization describes intuition as effectively charged judgments that arise through rapid, non-conscious, and holistic associations. This framing emphasizes the emotional dimension even more strongly. According to this view, intuition is not emotionally neutral. It carries feeling, whether positive or negative, and that emotional charge forms part of how we recognize an intuitive response as distinct from other mental events. The rapidity is crucial because it distinguishes intuition from slower, more deliberate forms of analysis. The non-conscious processing means we lack introspective access to the mechanisms generating the judgment. And the holistic associations suggest that intuition integrates many sources of information simultaneously, producing an overall assessment rather than carefully weighing individual factors one at a time. Both definitions share important common ground. They agree that intuition operates largely outside conscious awareness. They recognize its speed. They acknowledge its emotional dimensions. They describe it as producing judgments or feelings of knowing, rather than mere sensory impressions. These points of agreement have allowed researchers to design experiments that probe intuitive processing, even though the phenomenon itself remains partially hidden from the people experiencing it. One approach involves presenting people with complex decisions and comparing outcomes when they rely on gut feelings versus when they engage in detailed analytical reasoning. Another method uses reaction time measurements to distinguish rapid, intuitive responses from slower, deliberative ones. Brain imaging studies can identify which neural networks activate during tasks that demand intuitive judgments. Neuropsychological investigations of patients with specific brain lesions reveal which structures contribute to intuitive capacities. Together, these diverse methods have begun painting a coherent picture of intuition's neural architecture and cognitive mechanisms. An important distinction emerges when we contrast intuition with insight. Both involve sudden understanding, but they differ in crucial ways. Intuition typically addresses practical judgment in specific situations. Should I trust this person? Is this the right choice? Something feels wrong here. Insight, by contrast, involves breakthroughs in understanding. Those aha moments when we suddenly grasp a solution to a problem we have been struggling with consciously. Intuition guides behavior in real time, often under conditions of uncertainty where complete information is unavailable. Insight reorganizes our conceptual understanding, creating new frameworks for thinking about issues we have been deliberately contemplating. The neural mechanisms overlap but are not identical. Both draw on unconscious processing. Both can feel sudden and complete. Yet insight typically follows a period of conscious effort, occurring when we stop trying so hard and allow our minds to wander. Intuition can arise with no prior deliberation, emerging spontaneously in response to environmental cues we may not even consciously register. Consider a concrete example to clarify these distinctions. Imagine you are a physician examining a patient. The symptoms seem to point toward one diagnosis, but something feels off. You have an intuition that a different, rarer condition might be responsible, even though you cannot articulate exactly why. That gut feeling represents intuition, a rapid assessment drawing on years of experience with countless patients, pattern recognition operating below conscious awareness. Now, imagine you spend days struggling to understand why a particular treatment is not working. You have consulted textbooks, discussed the case with colleagues, analyzed test results repeatedly, but the explanation eludes you. Then one morning, while making coffee, completely unrelated to conscious thought about the case, the answer simply appears in your mind fully formed. That represents insight, the sudden resolution of a problem your conscious mind had been actively wrestling with. Both experiences feel mysterious. Both arrive without clear justification. Yet they serve different functions and emerge from partially distinct neural processes. Understanding these nuances helps us appreciate that intuition is not a single, unified phenomenon, but rather a family of related processes. All involve rapid, largely unconscious assessments that generate feelings of knowing or inclinations to act. All bypass the slow, methodical reasoning we associate with System 2 thinking, that deliberate, effortful mode of cognition. Instead, they exemplify System 1 thinking, the fast, automatic, parallel processing that handles most of our moment-to-moment navigation through the world. System 1 operates continuously, effortlessly, and largely invisibly. It recognizes faces, interprets tones of voice, assesses social dynamics, detects patterns, and generates emotional responses, all without requiring conscious attention. Intuition represents System 1 extending into domains of judgment and decision-making traditionally associated with deliberate thought. Rather than carefully weighing evidence, System 1 produces a rapid overall assessment, a feeling that this option is right or wrong, safe or dangerous, trustworthy or suspicious. This does not mean intuition is infallible or that we should always trust gut feelings over careful analysis. System 1 is fast precisely because it takes shortcuts. It relies on heuristics, simplified rules that usually work but can sometimes mislead. It is vulnerable to biases, systematic errors in judgment that arise from the very mechanisms that make rapid assessment possible. Understanding intuition means appreciating both its power and its limitations. Recognizing when to trust those quiet inner voices and when to insist on slower, more deliberate scrutiny. As we explore the neural machinery underlying intuitive processing, these themes of rapid assessment, unconscious operation, emotional coloring, and practical judgment will recur again and again, revealing intuition not as magic but as biology, not as mysticism but as sophisticated information processing shaped by millions of years of evolution. The brain's hidden machinery. Deep within the skull, beneath the convoluted folds of the cerebral cortex where conscious thought primarily resides, lie ancient structures that existed long before human beings developed language or civilization. These subcortical regions govern fundamental processes: movement, motivation, emotion, and learning. Among them, the basal ganglia stand out as particularly crucial for understanding intuition. This collection of interconnected nuclei, including the caudate, putamen, nucleus accumbens, and globus pallidus, forms a processing hub that operates largely outside conscious awareness, yet profoundly influences behavior. The basal ganglia excel at implicit learning, the acquisition of knowledge without conscious instruction, the recognition of patterns we never deliberately tried to memorize, the development of skills we cannot fully articulate. Implicit learning represents one of the brain's most remarkable capabilities. Throughout your life, you have absorbed countless regularities in the world around you. You learned the rhythm of your native language not through grammar lessons, but through immersion, automatically extracting the statistical patterns that govern which sounds follow which others. You learned social norms not through explicit instruction, but through observation, gradually internalizing rules about personal space, appropriate topics of conversation, and emotional expression. You learned to ride a bicycle not through memorizing principles of balance and momentum, but through practice. Your body discovering solutions your conscious mind never formulated. In each case, the basal ganglia played a central role, detecting patterns across repeated experiences and encoding them as procedural knowledge that guides behavior without requiring conscious retrieval. This form of learning differs fundamentally from the explicit, declarative knowledge you can consciously access and describe. When you learn facts deliberately, studying for an exam or memorizing a phone number, those memories primarily involve the hippocampus and related structures that support conscious recollection. You can state what you know. You can explain how you learned it. You can deliberately bring the information to mind when needed. Implicit learning, by contrast, creates knowledge you cannot fully articulate. You know that a sentence sounds wrong grammatically, but you might struggle to explain exactly which rule it violates. You sense that someone's body language signals discomfort, but you cannot enumerate the specific cues that triggered your assessment. You execute a complex motor skill smoothly, yet describing the precise muscle sequences proves nearly impossible. This implicit knowledge forms the substrate of intuition, the accumulated wisdom stored in patterns of neural connectivity shaped by experience. Research using patients with specific neurological conditions has illuminated the basal ganglia's role in implicit learning and intuition. Huntington's disease, which causes progressive degeneration beginning in the caudate nucleus, impairs patients' ability to learn sequences implicitly. When presented with patterns that healthy individuals unconsciously extract, Huntington's patients fail to show the same learning, even though their explicit memory and conscious reasoning remain relatively intact in early stages. Parkinson's disease, which affects dopamine-producing neurons that supply the basal ganglia, similarly disrupts implicit learning. Patients have difficulty acquiring new procedural skills and show reduced intuitive responses in tasks that depend on recognizing patterns outside conscious awareness. These selective impairments reveal that implicit learning constitutes a distinct form of cognition, one that can be damaged while other mental faculties persist. Neuroimaging studies with healthy volunteers further confirm the basal ganglia's centrality to intuitive processing. When people perform tasks requiring implicit pattern recognition, brain scans reveal increased activity in the caudate and putamen. Interestingly, activity in these regions often correlates with better intuitive performance. Those individuals who show stronger basal ganglia activation during implicit learning tasks tend to demonstrate more accurate gut feelings in subsequent tests. This suggests the basal ganglia are not merely involved in intuition, but may represent its core neural substrate, the biological machinery that converts repeated experience into rapid, non-conscious judgment. The basal ganglia do not work in isolation. They form part of larger circuits connecting to the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center, and to limbic structures like the amygdala, which processes emotional significance. Information flows continuously through these loops, with sensory input arriving from cortical regions, passing through the basal ganglia where it is evaluated against stored patterns, and then influencing behavior through connections to motor systems and emotional centers. This architecture explains why intuition feels both cognitive and affective. The cognitive component arises from pattern matching, the recognition that current circumstances resemble situations encountered previously. The affective component emerges from connections to emotion systems, which tag certain patterns as significant, dangerous, promising, or trustworthy. Together, these processes generate that characteristic feeling of intuitive knowing, a sense that combines factual assessment with emotional conviction. One particularly fascinating aspect of implicit learning is that it can occur even when people are trying to learn explicitly. In classic experiments, participants are shown sequences of stimuli that follow hidden rules. Some participants are told to figure out the rules and try to learn them consciously. Others are simply asked to respond to each stimulus as it appears without worrying about patterns. Remarkably, the group that tries to learn explicitly often performs worse than those who simply respond naturally. The deliberate attempt to understand interferes with the implicit learning mechanisms that would otherwise extract the patterns automatically. This finding carries profound implications. It suggests that sometimes trying too hard to understand actually impedes learning. Intuition flourishes when we stop forcing comprehension and allow unconscious processes to do their work. This insight connects to the distinction between System 1 and System 2 thinking mentioned earlier. System 2, the slow, deliberate, conscious mode, is not simply a better version of System 1. Each system has strengths and weaknesses. System 2 excels at logical reasoning, systematic analysis, and handling novel problems that require careful thought. System 1 excels at rapid pattern recognition, integrating many sources of information simultaneously and generating quick responses based on accumulated experience. Crucially, System 1 can process more information simultaneously than System 2. While conscious attention has severe capacity limitations, forcing us to focus on one thing at a time, unconscious processing can track multiple patterns in parallel. This is why expert performers often report that their best performances occur when they stop thinking and trust their training. The basketball player who consciously thinks about shooting form tends to miss more shots than when she simply sees the basket and lets muscle memory take over. The musician who deliberately monitors each finger movement stumbles more than when he loses himself in the music. The chess master who calculates every variation explicitly plays worse than when she relies on pattern recognition to suggest promising moves. All these examples share a common theme. Intuition draws strength from implicit learning, from knowledge encoded outside conscious awareness through repeated exposure to structured environments. The basal ganglia, working quietly beneath the surface of consciousness, extract the statistical regularities that define those environments and encode them as expectations that shape perception, guide attention, and generate rapid assessments. When circumstances match familiar patterns, intuition can be remarkably accurate, delivering judgments that seem to come from nowhere but actually reflect thousands of hours of accumulated experience. When circumstances diverge from familiar patterns, intuition becomes less reliable, and that is when slower, more deliberate System 2 thinking must take the lead. Understanding when to trust intuition and when to insist on analysis requires appreciating the neural systems that generate both, recognizing their different capabilities, and developing metacognitive awareness of which situations call for which mode of thinking. The gut-brain connection. One of the most striking features of intuitive experience is its embodied quality. Intuition rarely presents as pure thought floating free from physical sensation. Instead, it arrives wrapped in bodily feelings. Your stomach tightens or flutters. Your heart rate changes. Your breathing shifts. Your palms sweat. Your chest feels warm or constricted. You might experience a vague sense of unease that seems to emanate from your abdomen, that classic gut feeling that gives intuition one of its most common names. These sensations are not merely side effects or metaphors. They represent genuine physiological changes that form an integral part of intuitive processing. To understand why intuition feels the way it does, we must explore the remarkable connection between the brain and the gastrointestinal tract. A bidirectional communication network so extensive and sophisticated that scientists increasingly view the gut as a second brain. The foundation of this gut-brain connection is the enteric nervous system, an extraordinary neural network embedded in the walls of the digestive tract from esophagus to anus. This system contains more than 500 million neurons, making it the largest concentration of nerve cells outside the brain itself. These neurons are not simply relaying commands from the central nervous system. They form an intricate local network capable of coordinating digestive processes largely independently. The enteric nervous system can sense the chemical composition of gut contents, detect mechanical stretch, regulate secretions, coordinate muscle contractions that move food through the system, and even generate reflexes without involving the brain at all. In many ways, it operates autonomously, earning its nickname as a second brain, though it lacks the cognitive sophistication we associate with consciousness. This enteric nervous system connects to the brain primarily through the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in the body. The vagus nerve emerges from the brainstem and wanders, which is what vagus means, through the neck and chest into the abdomen, branching extensively to innervate the heart, lungs, and gastrointestinal tract. Most people assume the vagus nerve primarily carries commands from brain to body. Instructions about digestion speed, heart rate, and breathing. But remarkably, approximately 80% of vagal fibers run in the opposite direction, carrying information from the body up to the brain. The gut talks to the brain far more than the brain talks to the gut. This massive flow of sensory information creates a constant stream of updates about conditions in the digestive system, information that influences emotion, cognition, and decision-making in ways we are only beginning to understand. The signals traveling along vagal afferents terminate in the brainstem, specifically in a region called the nucleus tractus solitarius. From there, information cascades to multiple brain regions. Some projections reach the hypothalamus, which regulates basic drives like hunger and thirst. Others connect to the amygdala, which processes emotional significance. Still others reach the insula and anterior cingulate cortex, areas involved in interoception, the perception of internal bodily states, and in generating emotional feelings. This widespread distribution means gut signals can influence a remarkably diverse array of mental processes. They contribute to mood, to stress responses, to social judgments, and critically to intuitive decision-making. Consider what happens when you encounter a situation that triggers an intuitive response. Perhaps you meet someone who makes you feel immediately uncomfortable, though you cannot articulate why. At an unconscious level, your brain has detected cues suggesting potential threat. These might be subtle inconsistencies in facial expression, vocal tone that does not quite match verbal content, body language that signals deception or hostility. Processing these cues activates networks in the prefrontal cortex and amygdala that assess social threat. These brain regions, in turn, send signals down to the body through autonomic pathways, including the vagus nerve. The gut responds. Muscle tension changes. Blood flow alters. The enteric nervous system shifts its activity patterns. These bodily changes then feed back to the brain via vagal afferents, creating a feeling of unease that colors your perception of the interaction. What you experience as intuition is actually a loop. Brain detects pattern. Body responds. Brain perceives body response. And that perception becomes the gut feeling that warns you something is wrong. This bidirectional communication explains why intuition feels physical. It is not that the gut is independently intelligent or possesses mystical knowledge. Rather, the gut is responding to signals from the brain, and those responses are then monitored and interpreted, creating somatic markers that guide decision-making. The neuroscientist Antonio Damasio has extensively studied these somatic markers, bodily feelings associated with particular outcomes based on past experience. When you consider a choice that previously led to bad consequences, your body generates a subtle negative feeling. When you contemplate something that worked out well before, you experience a positive sensation. These markers operate largely outside awareness, steering you away from options that feel wrong and toward those that feel right, all without requiring conscious recollection of why particular choices carry particular feelings. The gut microbiome adds another layer of complexity to this picture. Your digestive tract hosts trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microbes that form a complex ecosystem. These microbes are not passive passengers. They produce neurotransmitters, including serotonin, dopamine, and gamma-aminobutyric acid. They generate metabolites that influence immune function and inflammation. They interact with the enteric nervous system and send signals to the brain via multiple pathways. Emerging research suggests the composition of gut microbiota can influence mood, anxiety, and even decision-making. Animals raised without normal gut bacteria show altered social behaviors and stress responses. Transfer of microbiota from anxious animals to calm ones can transmit some of that anxiety. Human studies are beginning to reveal similar patterns, though the research is still in early stages. One particularly intriguing finding is that changes in gut microbiota composition correlate with variations in interoceptive awareness, the ability to perceive internal bodily signals accurately. People with greater interoceptive awareness tend to make better intuitive decisions in experimental tasks. They also show stronger connections between gut and brain in neuroimaging studies. This suggests that the quality of gut-brain communication might partly determine how reliable your intuition is. Those who can clearly perceive their bodily states have more informative somatic markers to guide their choices. Those with less clear perception might experience vaguer feelings that are harder to interpret and easier to ignore. The practical implications are profound. The state of your gut may literally influence the quality of your intuition. Stress, poor diet, certain medications, and inflammatory conditions can all disrupt gut function and alter the signals traveling to the brain. Chronic stress, in particular, can dysregulate the gut-brain axis, reducing the clarity of interoceptive signals and potentially impairing intuitive judgment. Conversely, practices that support gut health, such as consuming diverse plant fibers that nourish beneficial microbes, managing stress through relaxation techniques, and maintaining regular sleep patterns may enhance the gut-brain communication that supports reliable intuition. This understanding transforms intuition from something mystical into something biological and potentially improvable. Your gut feelings arise from a sophisticated communication network connecting brain, enteric nervous system, vagus nerve, and gut microbiota. This network has been shaped by evolution to provide rapid feedback about situations and choices, drawing on bodily wisdom that complements conscious reasoning. When the network is functioning well, when communication is clear and signals are interpreted accurately, intuition can guide you effectively. When the network is disrupted by stress, illness, or poor lifestyle factors, intuitive signals become muddier and less trustworthy. Recognizing this biological basis allows us to approach intuition with both respect for its capabilities and awareness of its vulnerabilities. The body speaks. The connection between gut and brain represents just one aspect of a broader phenomenon called interoception, the perception of internal bodily states. Every moment, receptors throughout your body monitor conditions and generate signals that travel to the brain. Mechanoreceptors detect stretch and pressure in blood vessels, lungs, bladder, and digestive organs. Chemoreceptors sense oxygen levels, carbon dioxide, glucose, and countless other molecules circulating in your bloodstream. Thermoreceptors track temperature. Baroreceptors monitor blood pressure. Pain receptors signal tissue damage. Proprioceptors report the position and movement of limbs and joints. This constant stream of interoceptive information creates a living map of your body's internal state, updated continuously, mostly outside conscious awareness. Most interoceptive signals never reach consciousness. Your brain uses them for automatic regulation, adjusting heart rate, breathing, digestion, and hormone secretion to maintain homeostasis without requiring your attention. Occasionally, though, certain signals cross the threshold into awareness. You become conscious of your heartbeat during exertion or anxiety. You notice breathing when it becomes labored. You feel hunger when blood sugar drops. You perceive the need to urinate when your bladder fills. These moments of conscious interoception represent a small fraction of the total information available, carefully filtered by mechanisms that prioritize what seems relevant, while suppressing routine signals that require no deliberate action. Individual differences in interoceptive awareness are substantial. Some people are exquisitely attuned to internal sensations, easily detecting subtle changes in heart rate, breathing, muscle tension, and gut activity. Others show much lower sensitivity, remaining largely unaware of internal states unless they become quite pronounced. These differences are not merely matters of attention or interest. They reflect genuine variations in how efficiently interoceptive signals are processed and made available to consciousness. Brain imaging studies reveal that people with higher interoceptive awareness show stronger activity in the insula, a region crucial for representing bodily states, and in the anterior cingulate cortex, which integrates interoceptive information with emotion and cognition. Interoceptive awareness matters profoundly for intuition. Remember that intuitive judgments characteristically feel physical. They arrive as bodily sensations. Your capacity to perceive and interpret these sensations determines how clearly intuition can speak to you. If your interoceptive awareness is low, intuitive signals may be present but too faint to register consciously. You might experience vague discomfort without recognizing it as a meaningful warning. You might miss the subtle positive feeling that marks a good choice. If your interoceptive awareness is high, you can detect fine gradations of bodily response and use them to guide decisions with greater confidence. One simple test of interoceptive accuracy involves heartbeat detection. Researchers ask participants to count their heartbeats over a specific interval without taking their pulse, relying purely on internal perception. Some people can do this with remarkable precision, their counts closely matching the actual number of beats. Others perform only slightly better than chance, unable to reliably sense their cardiac rhythm. Performance on this task correlates with various measures of intuition and emotional awareness. Those who accurately perceive their heartbeats tend to make better decisions in tasks involving uncertain outcomes, to show stronger emotional responses to evocative images, and to report more vivid gut feelings in everyday life. Their superior interoceptive awareness allows bodily signals to more effectively inform conscious experience. This connection between heartbeat perception and intuitive decision-making has been demonstrated in elegant experiments. In one classic study, participants viewed a series of cards and had to decide which were associated with rewards versus punishments. They could not consciously determine the pattern, which was deliberately designed to be too complex for explicit analysis. However, their bodies began responding differently to risky versus safe cards before conscious awareness of the pattern emerged. Skin conductance measurements, which track subtle sweating responses, showed anticipatory reactions to dangerous cards. Crucially, participants who were more interoceptively aware, as measured by heartbeat detection accuracy, noticed these bodily reactions sooner and made better choices as a result. Their intuition was literally more informative because they could perceive the warnings their bodies were providing. These findings suggest that cultivating interoceptive awareness might improve intuitive judgment. Several practices are known to enhance body awareness. Mindfulness meditation, particularly body scan techniques that systematically direct attention through different body regions, can increase interoceptive sensitivity. Yoga, which combines physical postures with breath awareness, similarly enhances the ability to detect internal states. Even simple practices like taking a few moments regularly to check in with bodily sensations, noticing areas of tension, the quality of breathing, the feeling of a heart rhythm, can gradually and increase interoceptive skills. Over time, these practices make the body's voice clearer, allowing intuitive signals to register more distinctly. However, interoception alone does not guarantee good intuition. The body's signals must be interpreted correctly. Bodily arousal, the increase in heart rate, breathing, and muscle tension that accompanies stress or excitement, is ambiguous. The same physiological pattern can accompany fear, anger, exhilaration, or attraction. Your interpretation of that arousal depends on context, expectations, and prior experience. This is why emotional state profoundly influences intuitive judgment. When you are anxious, your body is already aroused, and you may misinterpret that baseline arousal as intuitive warning about situations that are actually safe. When you are calm and grounded, bodily signals have a clearer connection to actual environmental cues rather than in internal emotional states. Research confirms that anxiety impairs intuitive performance. In one study, participants were placed in different mood states using music and guided imagery before completing an intuitive decision task. Those in anxious or negative moods performed significantly worse than participants in neutral or positive moods. The anxious individuals experienced their bodily arousal but misattributed it, treating their anxiety as if it were intuitive insight about the task when it actually reflected their emotional state. Positive mood, by contrast, seems to support better intuition. People in genuinely positive emotional states show enhanced pattern recognition, greater cognitive flexibility, and more accurate, rapid judgments. The positive affect appears to facilitate the associative processes that underlie intuitive thought. Depression similarly disrupts intuition. Studies examining intuitive decision-making in individuals with clinical depression find consistent impairments. Depressed individuals tend to rely less on gut feelings and more on deliberate analysis. Yet their analytical processes are themselves compromised by the cognitive symptoms of depression, including poor concentration and pessimistic biases. The result is decision-making that is both slower and less accurate. The mechanisms likely involve the same disruption of interoceptive processing. Depression alters how the brain represents bodily states, dampening emotional responses and reducing the clarity of somatic markers that normally guide choices. Without clear bodily feedback, intuitive processes lose one of their primary sources of information. Understanding the embodied nature of intuition reveals why practices that support physical well-being may enhance mental clarity beyond obvious health benefits. Exercise increases interoceptive awareness by making bodily states more salient. Regular physical activity improves regulation of stress response systems, making it easier to distinguish genuine, intuitive signals from background anxiety. Sleep supports the consolidation of implicit learning and the calibration of emotional systems that color intuitive judgment. Nutrition affects gut-brain communication and neurotransmitter availability. All these factors influence the quality of embodied information available for intuitive processing. Treating your body well is, in a very real sense, treating your intuition well, social intuition. While intuition operates across many domains, one area where it proves particularly powerful and mysterious is social interaction. Human beings are exquisitely social creatures, our survival and flourishing deeply dependent on our ability to navigate complex webs of relationships, alliances, and competitions. Reading others accurately, predicting their intentions, understanding unspoken emotional states, these capacities have shaped human evolution as surely as any physical adaptation. Social intuition allows you to sense when someone is lying, when a conversation is becoming tense, when a stranger can be trusted, or when someone is attracted to you. All this happens continuously, mostly outside awareness, generating gut feelings about social situations that guide your responses without requiring conscious deliberation. The speed and automaticity of social intuition are remarkable. Within milliseconds of seeing a face, you have formed impressions about trustworthiness, competence, warmth, and dominance. These snap judgments occur too quickly for conscious reasoning. They arise from rapid pattern recognition in brain networks specialized for social perception. The fusiform face area in the temporal cortex specializes in processing facial structure. The superior temporal sulcus analyzes dynamic facial movements and eye gaze direction. The amygdala assesses emotional expression and potential threat. The temporoparietal junction and medial prefrontal cortex support understanding of others' mental states. Information flows rapidly through these networks, generating overall assessments that feel immediate and holistic, rather than piecemeal. One crucial mechanism supporting social intuition is the mirror neuron system. Networks of neurons that activate both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that same action. Originally discovered in monkeys and later confirmed in humans through various neuroimaging methods, mirror neurons seem to provide a neural basis for understanding others by simulating their actions and states within your own brain. When you watch someone reach for a cup, mirror neurons in your motor cortex activate as if you were reaching yourself. When you see someone's face contort in pain, areas of your pain network show activity even though you feel no actual pain. This neural mirroring allows you to understand others from the inside by creating internal models of their experiences that draw on your own sensory motor and emotional systems. The mirror neuron system connects intimately with intuition in several ways. First, it operates largely automatically and unconsciously. You do not deliberately decide to mirror another person's actions. It happens spontaneously, providing an immediate felt sense of what they are doing and perhaps why. Second, mirror neurons can generate anticipatory activation. When observing the beginning of a familiar action sequence, mirror neurons activate in patterns corresponding to the completion of that sequence before it actually occurs. This allows you to predict what someone will do next, generating that intuitive feeling of knowing what is coming. Third, mirror neurons are modulated by learning and experience. Through repeated exposure to particular action patterns, your mirror system becomes more precisely tuned, allowing increasingly accurate social predictions. Social intuition also draws heavily on implicit learning processes. Throughout your life, you have observed countless social interactions. You have seen how conversations unfold, how conflicts develop and resolve, how relationships deepen or fracture. All these observations have trained your brain to recognize patterns in social behavior. You have learned, without conscious instruction, that certain combinations of facial expression, vocal tone, and body language reliably predict particular outcomes. Someone who avoids eye contact while their voice rises defensively is probably lying or deeply uncomfortable. Someone who leans forward with focused attention and mirroring body language is engaged and likely receptive. Someone whose words say one thing while their nonverbal cues suggest another is experiencing internal conflict. These patterns have been encoded through the same implicit learning mechanisms we explored earlier, creating social knowledge you cannot fully articulate but that guides your responses. The role of the basal ganglia in social intuition has been demonstrated through studies of individuals with Parkinson's disease and Huntington's disease. Both conditions impair implicit learning, and both produce deficits in social cognition. Patients have difficulty recognizing emotions from facial expressions, understanding nonverbal cues, and making accurate social predictions. These deficits appear even when other aspects of cognition remain relatively preserved, suggesting that the implicit learning systems supported by the basal ganglia are crucial for developing and maintaining social intuition. Without these systems functioning properly, the accumulated wisdom of social experience cannot effectively guide rapid social judgments. Autism spectrum conditions provide another window into social intuition. Many autistic individuals report experiencing less automatic social intuition, finding social interaction exhausting precisely because they must rely more heavily on conscious analysis of cues that neurotypical people process intuitively. Neuroimaging studies reveal differences in mirror neuron activation and in the development of implicit social knowledge. This does not mean autistic individuals cannot understand social situations. Many develop sophisticated explicit models of social behavior, but the intuitive, automatic understanding comes less naturally. Conversely, some autistic individuals report enhanced intuition in non-social domains, suggesting that neurodevelopmental differences may create trade-offs in the allocation of cognitive resources. The accuracy of social intuition varies tremendously across individuals and contexts. Some people seem to possess uncanny ability to read others, picking up on subtle cues that most miss. Research on this phenomenon has identified several contributing factors. First, practice and exposure matter. Those who have rich social experiences, who interact with diverse people in varied contexts, develop more extensive pattern libraries for social recognition. Second, motivation and interest play roles. People who are deeply curious about others, who attend carefully to social dynamics improve their social pattern recognition through that focused attention. Third, emotional intelligence, the ability to perceive and understand emotions in oneself and others, supports social intuition by providing clearer mapping between observed cues and internal states. However, social intuition is also vulnerable to systematic biases. The very mechanisms that allow rapid social assessment can lead to prejudice and stereotyping. When your brain detects patterns in past social experience, those patterns may reflect biases present in your culture or previous interactions, rather than valid generalizations. If you have rarely encountered people from a particular background, and your limited exposures have been negative, your intuition may generate unfounded suspicion when meeting someone from that background. Similarly, social intuition can be influenced by contextual factors that have nothing to do with the person being judged. Attractive people are intuitively perceived as more trustworthy and competent, even though appearance has no logical connection to character. People evaluated when judges are tired, hungry, or in bad moods receive harsher intuitive assessments. These biases reveal that social intuition, while often useful, must be held lightly and checked against more deliberate analysis when important decisions are at stake. The future of understanding social intuition likely involves integrating multiple levels of analysis. We need to understand the neural mechanisms, how mirror neurons and implicit learning systems generate rapid social assessments. We need to appreciate the role of experience and culture in shaping the pattern libraries that support social recognition. We need to acknowledge the influence of current emotional and physical states on how social cues are interpreted. And we need to develop strategies for recognizing when social intuition is likely reliable versus when it may reflect bias or error. Social intuition is neither magic nor purely mechanical. It is an evolved capacity, exquisitely tuned by natural selection, further refined by individual experience, and both enhanced and limited by the biological and psychological context in which it operates. When intuition shines. Given the various mechanisms underlying intuition, the implicit learning, the embodied signals, the rapid pattern matching, under what circumstances does intuition perform at its best? When should you trust those gut feelings, and when do they deserve the most confidence? Research into expert intuition provides clear answers. Intuition shines most reliably in domains where you have extensive, structured experience. When you have encountered similar situations repeatedly, when outcomes have provided feedback allowing pattern refinement, when the environment is relatively stable rather than chaotic, intuition can reach remarkable levels of accuracy. Consider a chess grandmaster evaluating a position. Presented with a board configuration for just a few seconds, an expert player can immediately identify the best move with astonishing frequency. This intuition does not arise from rapid calculation of all possible continuations. That would be impossible in the time allowed. Instead, the position activates patterns stored in long-term memory from studying and playing thousands of games. The Grandmaster sees the position as meaningful chunks rather than individual pieces, recognizing similarities to familiar patterns and intuiting the appropriate response. Brain imaging studies show that expert chess players activate different neural networks than novices when evaluating positions. Experts show less activity in regions associated with deliberate calculation, and more in regions supporting pattern recognition and implicit memory. Medical diagnosis provides another domain where expert intuition excels. Experienced physicians often report that diagnoses come to them intuitively before they can articulate the full reasoning. A combination of symptoms, physical findings, and patient history activates pattern recognition systems trained by years of clinical experience. The doctor has a gut feeling about what is wrong, then consciously searches for evidence to confirm or refute that intuition. Studies of diagnostic accuracy find that expert intuitions are often remarkably reliable, particularly for conditions the physician has encountered frequently. However, this intuition depends critically on experience. Novice physicians cannot yet rely on intuition because they lack the extensive pattern libraries that support accurate rapid assessment. Firefighters offer a dramatic example of life-saving intuition. Experienced firefighters sometimes report sensing danger and ordering evacuations moments before a building collapses, without conscious awareness of why they felt the danger. Careful retrospective analysis often reveals that they detected subtle cues, such as changes in fire sound or heat patterns that indicated structural instability. Their extensive experience had taught them, implicitly, which combinations of cues predict danger. In the moment, this knowledge manifested as intuition, a compelling urge to get out that saved lives. The accuracy of such intuition depends entirely on experience in similar situations. A novice would miss the subtle cues entirely. These examples share common features. Expert intuition requires a prolonged exposure to a domain, typically thousands of hours of practice. It depends on feedback, knowing whether previous intuitions were correct or incorrect, so patterns can be refined. It works best in relatively stable environments where the same patterns repeat rather than in completely novel situations where no relevant experience exists. And even expert intuition benefits from conscious verification. The chess grandmaster checks the intuited move before playing it. The physician orders tests to confirm the intuitive diagnosis. The firefighter looks for additional signs of danger rather than relying on gut feeling alone. Flow states, those experiences of complete absorption where action and awareness merge, provide another context where intuition operates at peak effectiveness. During flow, conscious deliberation recedes, and behavior unfolds smoothly, guided by intuition. Athletes describe being in the zone where movements happen without thought. Musicians lose themselves in the music, technical concerns dissolving as sound pours forth. Artists enter states where the work seems to create itself. These flow experiences depend on the same underlying mechanisms as expert intuition. Extensive practice that has automated skills, reducing the need for conscious control, and pattern recognition that guides choices without deliberate reasoning. Research examining the neuroscience of flow reveals distinctive brain states. One consistent finding is transient hypofrontality, a temporary reduction in activity in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center. This deactivation of conscious control systems allows more automatic processes to guide behavior without interference. Additionally, flow states involve increased connectivity between sensory, motor, and reward systems, creating efficient information flow that supports smooth performance. The subjective experience of effortless action corresponds to this neural efficiency, where well-practiced patterns execute with minimal conscious overhead. Positive emotional states also enhance intuitive performance, as mentioned earlier. When you are in a genuinely positive mood, not merely feigning happiness, but experiencing authentic positive affect, your cognitive style shifts. You become more associative in thinking, making broader connections between concepts. You show enhanced creativity and problem-solving, and critically, your intuitive judgments become more accurate. The mechanisms likely involve both increased cognitive flexibility, which allows better access to implicit knowledge, and enhanced interoceptive clarity, which makes bodily signals more informative. Positive mood seems to optimize the conditions for intuition to function well. Trust also plays a fascinating role. When you trust your intuition, it often performs better. This is not merely confirmation bias or self-fulfilling prophecy. Rather, trust allows you to access intuitive information more freely. Doubt and anxiety create interference, making it harder to detect subtle signals. When you trust yourself, you attend to intuitive feelings with less second-guessing, allowing them to guide behavior more directly. Of course, this trust must be calibrated to your actual expertise. Blind faith in gut feelings outside your domains of experience leads to overconfidence and error. But within areas where you genuinely have expertise, trusting intuition can unlock its full potential. Understanding when intuition works best allows strategic deployment of this cognitive resource. In domains where you have extensive experience, where patterns repeat reliably, and where you need quick assessments, trust your gut. In novel situations, in environments with random or deceptive patterns, or when consequences of error are severe, insist on slower deliberation. The wisdom lies not in always trusting or always doubting intuition, but in developing metacognitive awareness of when each approach is appropriate. When intuition misleads. For all its power and sophistication, intuition is far from infallible. The same mechanisms that allow rapid assessment also introduce systematic errors. Understanding these limitations is as important as appreciating intuition's strengths. When does intuition mislead? And what can we do to mitigate those errors? First, intuition fails in truly novel situations where you have no relevant experience. Remember that intuition draws on pattern recognition based on past exposure. When you encounter something genuinely unprecedented, you lack the patterns needed for accurate intuitive assessment. Your brain may still generate an intuitive feeling, constructing a response based on superficial similarities to familiar situations, but that response is likely to be unreliable. This is why experts can intuitive judgments fail when facing problems outside their area of expertise. The chess grandmaster's intuition about board positions does not extend to medical diagnosis. The physician's clinical intuitions do not apply to financial investment. Domain specificity is crucial. Intuition is not a general faculty that works everywhere. It is specific to areas where you have accumulated relevant experience. Second, intuition is vulnerable to cognitive biases. systematic deviations from rationality that arise from the heuristics underlying intuitive thought. Availability bias causes us to judge events as more likely if we can easily recall examples, regardless of actual probability. Anchoring bias makes initial information disproportionately influence our judgments even when later information contradicts it. Confirmation bias leads us to notice and remember information that confirms our intuitions while dismissing contradictory evidence. Representativeness bias makes us assume that things that seem similar are related even when they are not. These biases emerge from the very shortcuts that make intuition fast. System 1 does not carefully weigh evidence. It generates quick assessments based on what is readily available in memory, what comes to mind easily, what seems representative of familiar categories. Usually, these shortcuts work well enough. Sometimes they lead dramatically astray. The classic example involves asking people whether more English words start with the letter K or have K as their third letter. Most people intuit that more words start with K because those words come to mind more easily. Actually, far more words have K as the third letter. The availability of examples in memory, which reflects how words are organized rather than actual frequency, misleads intuition. Similarly, after seeing news coverage of a plane crash, people intuitively judge flying as more dangerous, even though statistically it remains extremely safe. The vivid, easily recalled example of the crash makes the risk feel larger than abstract statistics suggest. Third, intuition can be corrupted by prejudice and stereotyping. When your pattern recognition systems have been exposed to biased environments, they encode those biases as if they were valid patterns. If you grew up in a community where certain groups were portrayed negatively, and you had limited direct experience to contradict those portrayals, your intuition may generate unfounded suspicion or discomfort when encountering members of those groups. The intuitive response feels real and immediate, but it reflects learned prejudice rather than genuine insight. This is perhaps intuition's most troubling limitation. The feeling of certainty that accompanies intuition makes it hard to question, yet sometimes that certainty is built on foundations of bias that conscious reasoning would reject. Research on implicit bias has documented widespread automatic prejudices that operate outside conscious awareness. Tests, like the implicit association test, reveal that even people who consciously reject stereotypes often show automatic associations linking certain groups with negative attributes. These automatic associations influence behavior in subtle ways, affecting hiring decisions, medical treatment, and countless everyday interactions. Because the biases operate implicitly, people typically do not realize their judgments are being influenced, instead experiencing their responses as intuitive assessments of individuals, when actually their responses partially reflect group stereotypes. Fourth, emotional states can hijack intuition, causing internal feelings to be misattributed as intuitive signals about external situations. We have already discussed how anxiety can impair intuitive performance. The mechanism involves misattribution. When you are anxious, your body is aroused. You experience elevated heart rate, muscle tension, perhaps gut discomfort. If you are not clearly aware that these sensations reflect your internal emotional state, you may interpret them as intuitive warnings about whatever you are currently considering. A job opportunity feels wrong not because there is actually anything wrong with it, but because you are anxious about change in general. A relationship seems risky not because the person is untrustworthy, but because your baseline anxiety creates constant vigilance for threat. Distinguishing between intuition that responds to genuine external cues versus feelings that arise from internal emotional states requires high interoceptive awareness and emotional self-knowledge. Fifth, intuition can be manipulated by those who understand how it works. Marketing and persuasion techniques often target System 1 processing, exploiting intuitive responses to bypass critical thinking. Attractive packaging, pleasant music, and friendly salespeople create positive affect that makes products feel more appealing. Scarcity cues, suggesting items are limited or selling fast, trigger intuitive urgency even when the scarcity is artificial. Social proof, showing that many others have made a purchase, activates intuitive assumptions that popular choices must be good. Authority figures and expert appearances trigger intuitive trust even when the supposed expertise is unrelated to the product. These techniques work precisely because they engage automatic processes that generate intuitive responses before conscious analysis can intervene. Understanding intuition's failure modes does not mean we should abandon it. Rather, we should develop strategies for knowing when intuition deserves trust and when it requires verification. Several approaches help. First, cultivate metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own thinking processes. Notice when you have intuitive responses and pause to consider their source. Do you have genuine expertise in this domain? Are you in a clear emotional state? Could bias be influencing your response? This does not mean endlessly second-guessing yourself, but it does mean occasionally checking intuitions against more deliberate analysis, particularly for important decisions. Second, seek feedback on your intuitions to refine pattern recognition. When you have a gut feeling about something, note it. Make a prediction and later check whether you were right. Over time, this creates better calibration, helping you distinguish domains where your intuition is reliable from those where it is not. Expert intuition develops through exactly this feedback process. You can apply the same principle deliberately to improve your own intuitive accuracy. Third, be especially cautious about intuitions regarding people different from yourself. Social intuition is particularly vulnerable to learned bias. When you have an intuitive response to someone from a background different from yours, pause before acting on it. Consider whether your response might reflect stereotypes rather than genuine perception of that individual. This does not mean ignoring all social intuitions. Genuine danger signals deserve attention, but it does mean holding those intuitions more lightly when bias might be operating. Fourth, use intuition as a hypothesis generator rather than a final answer. Let gut feelings suggest possibilities worth exploring, rather than treating them as certain truth. The physician's intuitive diagnosis becomes a starting point for testing. The business person's sense that a deal feels wrong triggers deeper investigation rather than immediate rejection. This approach honors intuition's insights while protecting against its errors. Intuition is a powerful tool, but like any tool, it can be used well or poorly. Understanding its limitations allows more skillful deployment, leveraging its speed and pattern recognition while avoiding the pitfalls of bias emotional contamination, and overconfidence in domains where you lack expertise. The neuroscience of insight. While we have primarily discussed intuition as rapid judgment in ongoing situations, closely related is the phenomenon of insight, those sudden breakthroughs when solutions to problems seem to arrive fully formed from nowhere. Insight shares with intuition the quality of bypassing conscious deliberation. Yet, it typically addresses problems you have been consciously working on, whereas intuition often operates without prior deliberate engagement. Understanding the neuroscience of insight illuminates additional mechanisms that contribute to intuitive processing more broadly. Insight experiences have a distinctive phenomenology. They occur suddenly, after a period where conscious effort has failed to produce a solution. They often happen when you are not actively working on the problem, perhaps while showering, walking, or drifting towards sleep. The solution appears complete and immediately obvious, with a feeling of certainty and often accompanied by positive emotion, that delightful aha sensation. Neuroscience research has identified brain states and patterns that characterize these moments, revealing that insight involves specific neural dynamics distinct from step-by-step analytical problem-solving. One key finding involves the right hemisphere's role in insight. While both hemispheres participate in most cognitive tasks, the right hemisphere seems particularly important for making distant associations, recognizing global patterns, and processing information holistically rather than in a step-by-step fashion. Studies using carefully designed problems that can be solved either through insight or through methodical analysis show that insight solutions correlate with bursts of activity in the right anterior temporal lobe moments before the person reports their aha experience. This region seems to support the sudden linking of distant concepts that characterizes insight. Another consistent finding is that insight involves temporary shifts in brain state toward what researchers call metastability. Normal brain activity involves dynamic balancing between integration, where different brain regions communicate and coordinate, and segregation, where regions operate relatively independently. During insight, the brain appears to enter states where this balance temporarily shifts, allowing unusual patterns of connectivity. Networks that normally do not strongly interact begin communicating more, enabling combinations of information that would not occur in more constrained states. This increased flexibility allows the distant associations that generate creative solutions. The temporal dynamics of insight are fascinating. Brain activity shows distinctive patterns in the seconds leading up to the aha moment. Alpha band oscillations, rhythmic electrical activity around 10 cycles per second, increase in right hemisphere regions. This alpha activity is associated with internal processing and reduced responsiveness to external stimuli. It is as if the brain is turning its attention inward, creating a quiet space where weak associations can strengthen without interference from external sensations or conscious control. When the insight occurs, there is a burst of high-frequency gamma oscillations, very rapid electrical activity associated with binding distant information together. This gamma burst seems to mark the moment when dispersed elements suddenly coalesce into a coherent solution. These neural dynamics explain why insight often happens when you stop trying consciously to solve a problem. Deliberate, focused effort activates prefrontal control systems that impose top-down constraints on thinking. These constraints are useful for methodical analysis, but they can prevent the distant associations needed for insight. When you stop trying, when you let your mind wander or engage in undemanding activities, prefrontal control loosens. The brain enters more exploratory states where unusual connections can form. This is why so many creative breakthroughs occur during rest, during transitions between waking and sleep, or during activities that occupy the hands but leave the mind free to roam. Sleep itself plays a crucial role in insight. During certain sleep stages, particularly REM sleep with its vivid dreams, the brain shows distinctive patterns of activity. Emotion-related regions like the amygdala become highly active. The hippocampus, which stores memories, engages in dialogue with cortical regions, reactivating and reorganizing recent experiences. Meanwhile, prefrontal regions that impose logical constraints show reduced activity. This constellation creates ideal conditions for forming novel associations. Memories combine in ways that would not occur during waking thought. Indeed, research shows that sleeping on a problem enhances the likelihood of insight solutions. After a period of sleep, people are more likely to discover non-obvious solutions compared to an equivalent period of waking rest. The relationship between insight and intuition becomes clearer when we consider that both involve unconscious processing generating sudden knowing. The distinction is primarily in scope and context. Intuition addresses ongoing judgment and decision-making, drawing on implicit patterns to generate rapid assessments of specific situations. Insight addresses broader problem-solving, reorganizing understanding to achieve breakthrough comprehension. Yet both rely on association formation outside conscious awareness. Both benefit from states of relaxed attention rather than forced effort, and both draw on the vast store of implicit knowledge accumulated through experience. Understanding these mechanisms has practical implications. When facing a difficult problem, periods of intense focus are valuable for loading relevant information into working memory and attempting systematic solutions. But those periods should be interspersed with breaks during which you engage in different activities, allowing incubation. The unconscious processes that support insight need time and mental space to operate. Walking in nature, taking a shower, doing routine chores, or getting a good night's sleep all provide opportunities for insight to emerge. Additionally, practices that enhance cognitive flexibility, such as exposure to diverse experiences and perspectives, may facilitate the distant associations that generate insights. The neuroscience of insight also reinforces the importance of trusting subtle signals. Insights often announce themselves with a feeling of rightness before you can fully articulate why the solution works. That feeling arises from the same pattern recognition systems that support intuition. While the insight still benefits from subsequent verification, that initial sense of correctness is informationally valuable, indicating that your unconscious processing has detected a meaningful pattern worth conscious examination. Cultivating better intuition. Given what we now understand about intuition's mechanisms and limitations, can we deliberately improve our intuitive capacities? The answer is clearly yes, though the path requires patience and specific practices. Intuition is not fixed. It can be refined, calibrated, and strengthened through experience and training. Several approaches show particular promise. First, develop deep expertise in domains that matter to you. Intuition is domain-specific. The surest path to reliable intuition is extensive experience in structured environments where patterns repeat and feedback is available. If you want better business intuition, immerse yourself in business, studying countless cases, making decisions and learning from outcomes, gradually building the pattern libraries that support accurate, rapid judgment. If you want better social intuition, engage deeply with diverse people, paying close attention to interactions, noting which cues predict which outcomes, refining your internal models through repeated observation. There is no shortcut. Expert intuition requires time and deliberate attention. Second, cultivate interoceptive awareness through mindfulness practices. We have seen that intuition speaks through bodily sensations. Enhancing your ability to detect and interpret these signals improves how clearly intuition can guide you. Regular mindfulness meditation, particularly practices that focus on breath, heartbeat, or body scans, systematically trains attention to internal states. Research demonstrates that such practices increase interoceptive accuracy, improve emotional regulation, and enhance decision-making. Even brief daily practice, perhaps 10 to 15 minutes, can produce measurable improvements over several weeks. Focused attention mindfulness involves sustaining attention on a single aspect of experience, such as the sensation of breath entering and leaving the nostrils, or the rise and fall of the chest with each breath cycle. When the mind wanders, which it inevitably will, you gently notice the distraction and return attention to the breath without judgment. This trains several capacities relevant to intuition: sustained attention to subtle sensations, awareness of when attention has drifted, and the ability to redirect attention deliberately. Over time, this makes interoceptive signals more salient, easier to detect in daily life. Open monitoring, mindfulness, takes a different approach. Rather than focusing on a single sensation, you allow attention to rest openly, noticing whatever arises: sensations, thoughts, emotions, sounds, without pursuing any particular experience. This trains flexibility of awareness and reduces reactivity. When applied to bodily sensations, open monitoring helps you become familiar with the full spectrum of internal experience, learning which sensations are significant versus merely background noise. This discrimination is crucial for accurate intuition, distinguishing meaningful gut feelings from random physical discomfort. Third, manage your emotional and physical state to create conditions where intuition operates well. We have seen that anxiety and depression impair intuitive performance, while positive mood enhances it. Chronic stress disrupts gut-brain communication and interoceptive clarity. Therefore, practices that support emotional regulation and stress management indirectly support intuition. These include adequate sleep, regular physical activity, social connection, time in nature, and activities that generate genuine positive emotion. While these recommendations sound generic, their relevance to intuition is grounded in specific mechanisms. Better emotional regulation means clearer interpretation of bodily signals. Reduced chronic stress means less baseline arousal that could be misattributed as intuitive warning. Positive mood means enhanced cognitive flexibility and pattern recognition. Fourth, seek deliberate feedback on your intuitions to calibrate them. One of the most powerful learning mechanisms is comparing predictions to outcomes. When you have an intuitive sense about something, note it explicitly. Write it down if the situation is important. Later, check whether you were right. Over time, this creates better metacognitive awareness of when your intuition is reliable. You may discover that your gut feelings about certain types of situations are quite accurate, while in other contexts, your intuitions reflect bias or wishful thinking. This calibration allows more strategic deployment of intuition, trusting it in domains where feedback has shown it reliable, while insisting on verification elsewhere. Fifth, expose yourself to diverse experiences and perspectives. Intuition depends on the richness and diversity of your internal pattern libraries. The more varied your experiences, the more nuanced your pattern recognition becomes. This applies to both domain-specific intuition and to broader capacities for insight and creativity. Travel to unfamiliar places. Engage with people from different backgrounds. Learn about fields outside your expertise. Read widely across disciplines. Try activities that push you beyond comfortable routines. Each novel experience adds new patterns to your cognitive repertoire, enriching the substrate from which intuition draws. Sixth, practice distinguishing intuition from other mental events. Not every passing feeling constitutes intuitive insight. Sometimes you experience anxiety, sometimes wishful thinking, sometimes random associations. True intuition has certain qualities. It tends to be immediate rather than built up through discursive thought. It often has a bodily component. It carries conviction without obvious justification, and it proves accurate more often than chance would predict. Learning to recognize these qualities helps separate genuine intuition from mental noise. One approach involves retrospection. After experiencing what felt like intuition, ask yourself, did this arrive suddenly or develop gradually? Was there a bodily sensation? Could I have consciously reasoned to this conclusion, or did it genuinely come from somewhere else? Was it accurate? This kind of analysis, done regularly, sharpens your ability to identify authentic intuitive signals. Seventh, create space for insights to emerge by balancing focused work with rest and wandering. We have seen that insight often arrives not during intense effort but during relaxed states when the mind wanders freely. If you are always busy, always stimulated, always focused on external tasks, you deny your unconscious processing the quiet necessary to complete its work. Building regular periods of unstructured time into your life, walking without listening to podcasts, sitting quietly without checking your phone, letting your mind simply drift, creates opportunities for insights to surface. This is not laziness. It is respecting the brain's need for downtime to consolidate learning and form new associations. Finally, learn to work with intuition through dialogue rather than dictation. The most effective approach is neither blind trust nor complete dismissal, but treating intuition as a valued advisor whose counsel deserves consideration alongside other sources of information. When you have a gut feeling, acknowledge it. Listen to what it might be telling you, but also interrogate it gently. Does it reflect genuine pattern recognition based on experience, or might bias, emotion, or wishful thinking be influencing it? Is this a domain where you have genuine expertise? Holding intuition in this balanced way, respectful but not subservient, allows you to benefit from its insights while protecting against its errors. Cultivating better intuition is a lifelong practice. It requires patience, honesty, and willingness to learn from mistakes. But the rewards are substantial. More reliable intuition means better decisions under uncertainty, faster recognition of opportunities and dangers, richer understanding of social situations, and enhanced creativity. It means having an additional resource to draw upon, a source of knowing that complements and sometimes transcends what conscious reasoning alone can provide. The future of intuition research. As neuroscience continues advancing, new technologies and methods promise deeper understanding of intuition. Several frontiers look particularly promising. Brain imaging is becoming more sophisticated, moving beyond simple localization of activity to examining dynamic patterns of connectivity that evolve over time. This allows researchers to track how information flows through neural networks during intuitive processing, revealing the temporal sequence of events leading from sensory input to gut feeling. Advanced analysis techniques can decode the informational content of brain states, potentially allowing us to predict when someone is having an intuitive response even before they consciously recognize it themselves. Brain-computer interfaces, systems that directly measure brain activity and translate it into control signals, open fascinating possibilities. Current interfaces primarily use conscious control, teaching people to modulate their brain activity deliberately to move cursors or type messages. Future systems might harness unconscious processing, detecting intuitive assessments from neural patterns and making them available to conscious awareness sooner or more clearly. Imagine a system that monitors your brain and bodily states during decision-making, identifies when your intuition is signaling a strong response, and alerts you to pay attention to that signal. Such technology could augment intuition, amplifying weak signals that might otherwise go unnoticed. Artificial intelligence provides another lens for understanding intuition. Machine learning systems, particularly deep neural networks, develop intuition-like capabilities through exposure to massive datasets. They learn to recognize patterns, make rapid classifications, and sometimes arrive at accurate judgments that their human designers cannot fully explain. Studying how artificial systems develop intuitive capacities may reveal principles applicable to biological intuition. Already, researchers have discovered surprising parallels. Both artificial and biological neural networks show improved performance from sleep-like offline processing. Both benefit from diverse training experiences. Both can be vulnerable to biases present in training data. As AI systems become more sophisticated, they increasingly serve as models for understanding human cognition. The gut-brain axis remains an active research frontier. Scientists are discovering ever more intricate connections between gut microbiota composition and cognitive function. Future research may develop probiotic or dietary interventions that enhance gut-brain communication, potentially improving intuitive judgment. The idea might sound strange. Eating certain foods or consuming particular bacterial strains to sharpen your gut feelings. But it follows logically from understanding intuition as an embodied process that depends on clear internal signaling. Genetic studies are beginning to identify variations that influence interoceptive awareness and intuitive capacities. Some genetic differences affect neurotransmitter systems that modulate gut-brain signaling. Others influence personality traits like openness to experience that correlate with intuitive thinking styles. While genetics certainly does not determine intuition, understanding genetic contributions could help personalize approaches to enhancing intuitive capacities, tailoring training methods to individual differences in neural processing. Perhaps most intriguingly, researchers are exploring whether intuition can be directly trained through targeted interventions. Some studies have tested whether practicing pattern recognition in one domain transfers to enhanced intuitive judgment in other areas. Others investigate whether neurofeedback, giving people real-time information about their brain states, can help them learn to enter neural configurations associated with good intuition. Still others examine whether pharmacological interventions that modulate particular neurotransmitter systems might temporarily enhance intuitive processing. These remain early explorations, but they point toward future possibilities for deliberately optimizing intuitive function. The philosophical implications of intuition research are profound. For centuries, debates have raged about the relationship between reason and emotion, conscious and unconscious, mind and body. Understanding intuition as a sophisticated form of pattern recognition grounded in neural mechanisms helps resolve some ancient puzzles. Intuition is not irrational. It is differently rational, operating through parallel distributed processing rather than serial logical inference. It is not purely emotional, though emotion contributes importantly. It is not mystical, though it can feel mysterious because its operations remain largely hidden from conscious introspection. As this understanding deepens, it may influence education, business, medicine, and many other fields. Education could include training intuitive capacities alongside analytical skills, helping students develop reliable gut feelings in their chosen domains. Business could better appreciate the role of intuition in expert decision-making while also understanding its limitations and biases. Medicine could honor physicians' clinical intuitions as valuable information while also recognizing when systematic protocols should override gut feelings. Law enforcement could use knowledge of intuition's accuracy and error rates to evaluate eyewitness testimony and officer decisions more fairly. The future of intuition research is not about replacing conscious reasoning with gut feelings. It is about understanding both, appreciating their different strengths, and learning to deploy each appropriately. It is about recognizing that human cognition is richer and more multifaceted than simplistic models suggest. We are not purely rational calculators. Neither are we merely emotional creatures buffeted by irrational impulses. We are complex systems that integrate multiple forms of knowing, from careful analysis to sudden insight to wordless bodily wisdom. The more completely we understand these various capacities, the more skillfully we can navigate our lives. Closing reflections. And so we arrive at the end of our gentle journey through the science of intuition. We have descended into the hidden machinery of the brain, traced the intricate pathways connecting gut to mind, explored the bodily feelings that color our knowing, examined intuition's remarkable successes and sobering failures, and considered how we might cultivate more reliable access to this ancient form of wisdom. What have we learned? Intuition is real. It is not superstition or wishful projection. It arises from sophisticated neural mechanisms that operate largely outside conscious awareness, drawing on pattern recognition systems shaped by evolution and refined by experience. When you have a gut feeling, something genuine is happening. Your brain has detected patterns based on accumulated knowledge. Your body is responding to those patterns. The signals converging create that distinctive sense of knowing without thinking. Intuition is embodied. It does not float free from flesh. The enteric nervous system, the vagus nerve, the microbiota in your gut, the interoceptive signals rising from throughout your body, all contribute to intuitive experience. This is why gut feelings feel the way they do, anchored in physical sensation. This is why your physical state matters for intuitive clarity. Taking care of your body is taking care of your capacity for intuitive knowing. Intuition is domain-specific. It develops through extensive exposure to structured environments, where patterns repeat and feedback shapes learning. Expert intuition in chess does not transfer to medical diagnosis. Business intuition does not apply to romantic relationships. Each domain requires its own apprenticeship, its own accumulation of experience. Respecting this domain specificity means trusting intuition within your areas of expertise while remaining cautious elsewhere. Intuition has systematic limitations. It can be corrupted by bias, clouded by emotional states, misled by superficial similarities. The very speed that makes intuition valuable also makes it vulnerable to shortcuts and errors. Understanding these limitations is not cause for despair, but for wisdom. Knowing when intuition is likely reliable versus when it deserves skepticism allows more skillful navigation of complex decisions. Intuition can be cultivated through mindfulness practices that enhance interoceptive awareness, through developing expertise in domains that matter, through managing emotional and physical well-being, through seeking feedback that calibrates pattern recognition, you can refine your intuitive capacities. This is not a quick process. It requires patience, honesty, and sustained attention. But the path exists, grounded in solid understanding of underlying mechanisms. Perhaps most importantly, intuition and reason are not enemies. They are complementary modes of knowing, each with distinct strengths. Intuition excels at rapid pattern recognition, at integrating multiple sources of information holistically, at accessing implicit knowledge accumulated across lifetimes of experience. Reason excels at logical analysis, at handling novel problems systematically, at questioning assumptions and checking conclusions. The wisdom lies not in choosing one over the other, but in learning when each is appropriate and how they can work together. There is something beautiful in understanding that you contain multiple forms of intelligence. Your conscious, reasoning mind, your intuitive, pattern-recognizing mind, your emotional, value-sensing mind, your embodied, world-navigating mind. These are not separate entities, but different aspects of a unified whole, each contributing its perspective, each offering its wisdom. Learning to listen to all these voices, to appreciate what each has to offer, to integrate their counsel into coherent understanding. This is perhaps what it means to be fully human. As you settle into sleep tonight, your brain will continue its quiet work. Memories will consolidate. Patterns will strengthen. Connections will form between ideas that seemed unrelated. The unconscious processing that supports intuition never rests. It operates continuously, refining your internal models, preparing you to meet tomorrow with wisdom accumulated from all your yesterdays. You can trust that process, not blindly, but with the understanding that comes from knowing how it works, what it can do, and where its limits lie. If you found value in this exploration, I hope you will like this video, subscribe to the channel, and perhaps share your own experiences with intuition in the comments below. Each of us has stories of times when gut feelings guided us wisely, or when we ignored intuition to our regret. Sharing these experiences helps us learn from one another, recognizing the universal human capacity for intuitive knowing, while appreciating how it manifests uniquely in each life. For now, let your body settle completely. Feel the support beneath you. Notice your breathing, gentle and even. Allow any remaining thoughts to dissolve like mist in morning sun. You have learned much tonight. The knowledge will integrate as you sleep, becoming part of the pattern library from which your future intuitions will draw. Trust that process. Trust the wisdom of your own depths. Trust that you know more than you know you know. Rest well, gentle traveler. The science of intuition has revealed its secrets, and those secrets are now yours to carry forward. Good night.